Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo in snowy Tucson, Arizona. That's right, snowy Tucson, Arizona. This March 2nd, 2023. And I love some of your comments already this AM. I mean, it's great. Tina says, hey, you know what, Bo, get your skis. And you know what? I got them. I got skis all over the place. And that's what Sylvia was telling me. She said, hey, get your skis and just go up on, we live in a hilly neighborhood, and we just go up on a hill and I can ski down that thing. So, Laura said that the southeast side is getting snow, I think, right now. And so there's still snowing over there. You know, the one bummer thing about it when it snows like this is that I can't go up on a mountain because there's so much snow that's on the lower levels that a lot of the Department of Transportation or whatever, the sheriff's department, they shut down the roads. So I don't think you're going to be able to get up really anywhere today. I don't think you're going to Mount Lemmon. I know Big Bear, California closed, the San Bernardino Mountains closed their area down. They got over, I think close to 5 feet of snow. Tahoe's got unreal up in Reno, that area, Reno, Tahoe area, just in a massive amount of snow. And I know from our daughter in Maine that she's got a couple feet over there. So a lot of snow going on. Mount Lemmon, our Mount Lemmon's going to be closed too. So that means we stay put. So what we do is we get something warm. When you get on the road and when I get on the road, we got to be a little cautious, right? Don't be going so fast, right? Don't be driving so quick, right? Because maybe braking's going to be a little more difficult and might, depending on where you're driving and how cold it is, right? But no motorcycles today. Definitely don't want to be doing any motorcycles. Maybe stay off the bikes and just stick to the cars today down here. So yeah, it is super pretty. So hey, let's get into 1 Kings 15 and read some of this and see what we can pull out of these sections, right? These narratives of the kings. And the kings are the northern kings and the southern kings of Israel. So now, instead of just dealing with one king, now Israel's got to deal with 2 kings, right? God he said, hey, you know what? I'll be your king. I'm going to, I'll take care of you, everything like that. They said, no, we want a king. Well, sometimes when we ask for something, we get a little more than we can really, we bite off, more than we can chew? Is that the old saying, But, that's what's happening here. Now they got 2 kings to deal with, and that means you got more people in power, more centralized power, and, doesn't mean the people are going to be treated very well, right? And so Abijam began to rule over Judah. Remember, Judah's always the thing we're really looking at, really kind of honing in on. It says he did it in the 18th year of Jeroboam's reign in Israel. He reigned in Jerusalem 3 years. And his mother was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. Oh, wow, interesting. Remember Absalom? Wow. So that name pops up again. David had a son named Absalom, and Absalom had a daughter. And it says he committed the same sins as his father before him, and he was not faithful to the Lord God as his ancestor David had been. What's your ancestry like? Do you have a book on your ancestry, or maybe a little ancestral kind of genealogy? Have you ever done those little tests? It's always neat when you do a test, right? Because you always find out that your ancestors are ancestors are totally different from what you ever thought. It's like we get so caught up in ethnicity today, right? You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that color, you're that color, you're this color. if you go back far enough, man, I hate to tell everybody, but you're going to see some radical, eye-opening, rude awakenings going on. You're going to be tripping out on who your ancestors are. Yeah, we get so focused on what we see right now, we forget all the past. But one of the things I can think about this morning, just right off the bat, is, do I repeat the sins of my father, my mother? Do I end up doing the same thing? Is that a pattern? What patterns do I see? Have I broken any patterns, maybe in my family? Anything that went on in my family that maybe just went on for generation and generation, and then it got to me, and maybe there was a breaking of that. It says here that Abijam did the same things as his dad, and his dad didn't do a really good job, right? And it says, but for David's sake, the Lord his God allowed his descendants to continue ruling, shining like a lamp, and he gave Abijam a son to rule after him in Jerusalem. So God stays faithful. That's the idea here. And boy, isn't it cool just to meditate on that God's faithfulness. That wonderful passage in the book of Timothy, 2 Timothy, right? If we are faithless, he remains faithful. If we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. Wow. Amazing. Talking about the unity between us and the Lord, and he is faithful to us, faithful to his promises. Can you rejoice this morning just in the faithfulness of God? I'd imagine the little animals out there are all pretty stoked, at the wonderful snow and the amount of water that they're getting. And, they probably pretty excited about that. I was just thinking about that too. Just the faithfulness of God in the way the world works, in the natural laws. I mean, that's something to be thankful for too, right? Because what if the natural laws that we know just went away? What if they just, boop, they're done? Well, then gravity would no longer be, and we'd all be done. So we can be thankful. God's faithful. For David had done what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord, and obeyed the Lord's commands throughout his life, except in the affair concerning Uriah the Hittite. So the writer says, hey, there was an area specifically where David didn't do the right thing, Uriah the Hittite and all that. And of course, there was definitely areas in David's life that are unmentioned here, but that we read that weren't the best, for sure. But David had done what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord. He kept the commands of God in the sense that he stuck to worshiping Yahweh. He did not change his worship. He did not move away from the law of God. And that's what we want to be, is kind of pillars in our ancestral line of people that, we're not perfect, but man, we stick to, the worship of the Lord. We don't want to turn to the right or to the left. We want to stay. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. We're going to stick to that. So there was war between Abijam and Jeroboam throughout Abijam's reign. The rest of the events of Abijam's reign and everything he did are recorded in the history of the kings of Judah. There was constant war between the north and the south, and when Abijam died, he was buried in the city of David. Then his son Asa became the next king. Asa began to rule over Judah in the 20th year of Jeroboam's reign in Israel. So, hey, another one takes over, right? Here comes another one. And he reigned in Jerusalem 41 years. So that's a long time, His grandmother was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. Okay, so we're kind of moving through the generations, aren't we? and that's neat. Sometimes we just need to kind of take a step back and go, wow, a lot's happened in these verses that we're reading. a lot of stuff. Lives have come and gone, and people were born, and then they got old, then teenagers, and then they got older, and things like that. And that's how we are, right? And it's good to reflect on that I'm just like every other human being. I'm born, and then if I live a certain period of time, and then I'm gonna die. My body will die. And that's how it's going to happen. And that's how it's always happened. No sense in neglecting that. No sense in avoiding that thought. But meet it with hope. Meet it in Christ. Knowing that Jesus said, because I live, you will live also. Man, awesome. Jesus said, he who believes in me, though he die, he may live. Right? Man, right on. I'm going to trust that. I'm going to trust the one who actually demonstrated that there's life after death. That's the one I'm going to trust. That's why it's good to trust Jesus, because he's demonstrated truly there is life after death. So some people go, I don't know, God, I don't want to think about my life. I don't want to think about, what's going to happen to me, or, I hate to think about, a world without me. Yeah, but you know what? Then we become just, everything's about us, I don't know if we become very good people. Maybe all that's left for us is a whole bunch of narcissistic attitudes. And instead we think about, and this is where I think young people really need to think about passages like this. And again, it's a passage that people skip over all the time, of course, these kind of genealogies and, hey, the grandmother of this and da la la. But if you don't think about your past and how you came to be, then you're gonna neglect, and you will diminish the value of you having children, and you passing on, continuing your ancestral line, and the value of that. What was the value of my great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother, great-great-great-great-grandmother? What was their value? Is that they did whatever it took to keep their kids going. And those kids had kids. And those kids had kids. And then me. And then me. And if I just say, hey, you know what? I don't think kids are important. I don't think having children's where it's at. I don't think that's an important thing. Then what have I just said about me and all the people that it took, the investment in their life that it took to get me to where I'm at? It took a whole ancestral line to get to me. People invested. People took time. They had babies. They took care of those babies. And that's how you came to be. And yeah, it's important. When you start diminishing that importance of man and woman having children, you know what you do? You know what we do as a culture? We force government and technology to create and take care of children. That's what we do. We will take it out of the hands of man and woman, and we put it in the hands of the scientist. Wow. Now, we all know what I believe in science means nowadays, don't we? Wow. Right? Let's not go there. But that's what we do. We take it out of our hands, independent hands, right? See, we don't want to devalue how important it is that people come from people, So Asa did what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, as his ancestor David had done. Hey, it says he banished the male and female shrine prostitutes and the land that got rid of all the idols. Wow. So he got rid of all that, sexual immorality that was going on, which was tied to false deities, worship, moving people away from the true and living God. Right? And it says he even deposed his grandmother Maacah from a position as queen mother because she had made an obscene Asherah pole. Wow, Absalom's grandmother made a Asherah pole, like a totem pole, and they were made with some kind of exploitive, the lustful image to it. And it's definitely like an equivalent to the modern day erotic world that we live in, right? No doubt there's some parallels there. But she did that. Isn't that a trip? Absalom's grandmother did this. And he cut it down. He said, you know what? We don't want to look at that. We're going to take down those images. We're going to take them down. And, and that's cool. That's a convicting thing for us in our day, right? Gosh, it's so easy for our eyes to go to different places. Those Asherah poles, to look at those things and to be moved by them. And let's face it, there's an excitement to all that stuff. There can be an excitement to all that stuff. But it can also be a trap and to move us away from God. So although the pagan shrines were not removed, Asa's heart remained completely faithful to the Lord throughout his life. Hey, isn't that cool? He brought into the temple of the Lord the silver and the gold and the various items that he and his father had dedicated. That's cool. It's funny that, Asa and doing like a revival, like a restoration, if you will, and really a renewing in Judah, he probably had on his mind like, hey, I don't think it's good that, kids see that. I don't think it's good that, our children are, in front of that thing all the time. That obscene gesture, maybe it's good that we take that down. Maybe he was thinking of children. Maybe he was thinking about, how, it was so linked, that Asherah pole was so linked to the goddesses of the pagan world, and the incense that's burned to them, and the bowing down to them, and giving people giving their hearts over to these fertility goddesses. And that he saw that instead of thinking about Moses and the commandments, they were moved away from it. And I think of it that, how many times my heart has been moved away from the commands of God, the law of God, by the distractions, by the things that distract, that billboard, that's put up right there, that distraction. What is the distractions today that are before us? We can have quite a bit of them, that's for sure. So there was constant war between King Asa and Judah and King Baasha of Israel. And it says King Baasha of Israel invaded Judah and fortified Ramah in order to prevent anyone from entering or leaving King Asa's territory in Judah. Asa responded by removing all the silver and gold that was left in the treasuries of the temple of the Lord and the royal palace. He sent it to some of the officials in Ben-Hadad, son of Timbermon, son of Hizon, the king of Aram, who was ruling in Damascus, along with this message: "Let there be a treaty between you and me, like the one between your father and my father. See, I am sending you a gift of silver and gold. Break your treaty with King Baasha of Israel, so that he will leave me alone." So you see some jockeying for positions going on, different things like that, political things, still things like go on today, right? I was just reading about, how, it's amazing, the things going on in China, the things going on in Russia, the things going on with Iran, the things going on with the United States, all wrapped around the Ukraine, is very interesting. right? People moving into positions, moving ships into positions, moving this into positions. North Korea, another big thing. A lot of countries starting to do just what we're reading right now, starting to get into position. Hey, we don't want to be attacked here. We need an alliance there. We need to make sure this is fortified. We need to make sure this resource is okay. Hey, that's kind of vulnerable out there in the sea right now. Let's move some people over there. Let's send more troops in this area. Let's train up those people over there so that they can defend those people over there. Get that. So, man, it is starting to roll. That's for sure. You can't probably watch just the mainstream media because I'm not sure. I haven't watched it in I don't know how long. It's been super long. But you might need to go to a good source and find out what's going on around the world. But it's very much reads like this, right? Ben-Hadad agreed to King Asa's request and sent the commanders of his army to attack the towns of Israel. They conquered the towns of Ijon, Dan, Beth, Abel, Beth, Makkah, and all Kinnereth, and the land of Naphtali. So up north. As soon as Baasha of Israel heard at what it was happening, he abandoned his project of fortifying Ramah and withdrew to Tisra. Then King Asa sent an order throughout Judah, requiring that everyone, without exception, help to carry away the building stones and timbers that Baasha had been using to fortify Ramah. Asa used these materials to fortify the town of Geba in Benjamin and the town of Mizpah. That's interesting, right? Everything that Baasha did, all the material he was using to conquer Asa used, right, when Baasha left the place to go back to his land that was being attacked, right, by King Aram, and what happens, good old King Asa gets in there and gets all those materials and starts using them for his benefit. So the rest of Asa's reign, the extent of his power, everything he did, and the names of the cities he built are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. In his old age, his feet became diseased. When Asa died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Hey, in his own old age, his feet became diseased. Now remember, Asa was a guy who walked with God. He was a guy who restored a lot of the right worship of the true and living God. That's what it says. But notice, his feet became diseased. It doesn't say anything about him getting healed or anything like that. Some people get disease. That's the world of the Bible after the fall of human beings. People get diseases and they die. Yep, that's what happens to us. Then Jehoshaphat, Asa's son, became the next king. So Jehoshaphat, what a cool name, right? Asa's son Jehoshaphat. Nadab, son of Jeroboam, began to rule over Israel in the second year of King Asa's reign in Judah. So now we're going to get a little insight into the north. He reigned in Israel 2 years, but what he did was evil in the sight of the Lord, followed the example of his father, continuing in the sins of Jeroboam, and led Israel, obviously, to commit sin. Then Baasha, son of Abijah, from the tribe of Issachar, plotted against Nadab and assassinated him while he and the Israelite army were laying siege to the Philistine town of Gibbethon. Baasha killed Nadab in the 3rd year of King Asa's reign in Judah, and he became the next king of Israel. So he is from Baasha. This guy Baasha, who we've been reading about, he actually is from the tribe of Issachar. And if you have a Bible, like a study Bible, you can always look at the back of those Bibles and you'll see a map chart of the tribes. They usually have maps in the back. But you can go look up Issachar and you'll see where this guy's from, and that he was a guy who, assassinated him. Whoa. Man, dude, this guy wiped him down. So he became ruler through what? Assassination. Yikes. So Baasha killed Nadab in the 3rd year of King Asa's reign and became king. He immediately slaughtered all the descendants of King Jeroboam so that not one of the royal family was left. Remember, that was a prophecy given to Jeroboam. Just as the Lord had promised concerning Jeroboam by the prophet Abijah and from Shiloh. This was done because Jeroboam had provoked the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by the sins he had committed and the sins he had led Israel to commit. The rest of the events of Nadab's reign and everything he did is recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Whoa, we got to read that book. It says there was constant war between King Asa and Judah and King Baasha of Israel. It says Baasha, son of Abijah, began to rule all Israel in the 3rd year of King Asa's reign in Judah. Baasha reigned in Tisra 24 years, but he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, followed the example of Jeroboam, continuing the sins that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. So, hey, he might have thought he was going to do something different, but he didn't. He just kind of kept doing the same old thing, right? So we get like someone who's doing pretty good. Asa's doing pretty good, in this section. Baasha, not so good, right? He just keeps falling. So you get, a king in the south who's starting to restore things. You get a king in the north who's just continuing to go nuts, right? And it's all this is based around false worship. It's all based around, like, the idea of good or bad here. What is good and bad, as far as a good king or a bad king, is all based around that worship. What are they giving themselves to? What are they handing themselves over to? Where are they really valuing? So as Christians, we want to be people that are really valuing the Lord, valuing the body of Christ, investing in our churches, helping people in our churches that come to us, and bringing people, to the Word of God, right? Helping them come to know the fountain of living water, Jesus, and the salvation that He offers, and the fulfilling hearts that He can give you. He can give you a fulfilled heart, that kind of thing. So, man, for sure. So beautiful, right? Jesus is the greatest king. He's the one who is the King of Kings. And He won't let you down at all. He won't flounder. He won't be inconsistent. He's solid. So we can trust Him for sure. So, hey, you guys have a great one. Tina says, finish the race. That's right. Finish that race. I love it. So you guys enjoy the snow. Enjoy the day. March 2nd, snowy in Tucson. Love it. Take care. Bye-bye.